40 years ago, China was one of the poorest countries on Earth, but today? It builds more ships than the rest of the world combined, produces most of the planet's solar panels, dominates critical minerals, and has become the single biggest challenger to Western power since the Soviet Union. So how did this happen? And why are governments across America, Europe, Japan, and Australia suddenly panicking about China? Because this isn't just about economics anymore, it's about who controls the future. For most of modern history, China was weak, poor, divided, and humiliated by foreign powers. Then came Mao Zedong and the Communist Revolution in 1949. Mao unified China and brought it under a communist system. But economically, it was a disaster. Central planning, collectivized farming, political purges, which resulted in tens of millions of deaths due to famine and chaos. By the 1970s, China was still incredibly poor. Then one man changed everything. Deng Xiaoping basically looked at the economy and said, maybe communism is great, but starving is bad. So, China did something revolutionary. It kept communist political control, but quietly embraced capitalism, and that combination changed the world. China became the factory of the world. Western companies rushed in because labor was cheap, really cheap. American and European corporations thought, fantastic. We can make everything for almost nothing, and consumers loved it. Cheap TVs, cheap clothes, cheap electronics, cheap everything. Suddenly, Walmart looked like paradise, but there was a hidden cost. Western countries outsourced huge parts of their manufacturing base to China. Factories shut down, industrial towns declined, and millions of jobs disappeared. Meanwhile, China was learning very fast. It copied technology, absorbed engineering expertise, built ports, railways, highways, airports, and created industrial infrastructure on a scale humanity had never seen before. And this wasn't just random growth, it was strategic. Because China wasn't just trying to get rich, it was trying to become powerful. Now here's the part that Western leaders got terribly wrong. They thought, if China becomes richer, it will become more democratic. That was the grand theory. Trade would liberalize China, capitalism would soften authoritarianism, American fast food would defeat communism. However, the spoiler alert is, that did not happen. China got richer, but the Communist Party became stronger, much stronger. Instead of collapsing, the Chinese state used economic growth to strengthen surveillance, central control, military power, and technological development. The West thought it was creating a trading partner, but instead, it accidentally helped create a rival superpower that is challenging the Western world's dominance. Today, China is an industrial giant, and it dominates sectors like batteries, solar panels, electric vehicles, shipbuilding, rare earth processing, and advanced manufacturing. China also has some of the world's largest high-speed rail networks, biggest ports, and fastest-growing tech companies. And militarily, it is expanding rapidly. Aircraft carriers, hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, and space technology. China is no longer merely catching up, it wants influence that is equal to, or greater than, the United States. And now the entire global system is adjusting to that reality. The real fear in the West is dependency, because many Western economies realized something uncomfortable. They rely heavily on China for medicine, electronics, industrial materials, critical minerals, and even parts of military supply chains. And then, COVID happened. Suddenly, Western governments realized something that was beyond their control, and that is, they outsourced half their economy to China. That triggered a huge shift. Countries are now trying to de-risk from China, but not fully separate, because that would wreck the global economy. Instead, they want to reduce their dependence on China for the bulk of their imports. This is why the US is restricting semiconductor exports, why Europe is rethinking industrial policy, why Australia suddenly cares a lot about rare earth minerals, and why Taiwan matters so much, because Taiwan produces many of the world's advanced computer chips. And if conflict ever erupted there, the global economy would be seriously affected. Now, despite all the headlines, China has serious problems. There is huge property debt, an aging population, declining birth rates, youth unemployment, and economic slowdown. And there's another issue. China became rich before becoming fully developed. Now that may sound strange, but it is important to realize the country is powerful, yet many citizens are still far less wealthy than people in the West. So, China now faces the challenge of maintaining growth while its old economic model starts weakening. And historically, that transition is very difficult. China's rise is one of the most important events in modern history. It ended the brief period where the West dominated the world almost uncontested after the Cold War. Now we are entering something new, a world with multiple centers of power. And that means more competition, more technological rivalry, more economic tension, and potentially more instability. But it also forces the West to confront difficult questions. What happens when a rival becomes economically essential? Can democracies compete with highly organized authoritarian systems? And who controls the technologies that will shape the future? Because the real story isn't simply that China became powerful, it's that the world built over the last 80 years is being rewritten in real time, and nobody yet knows how the next chapter ends. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know. Do you think China will overtake the United States this century? Or has China already peaked? See you in the next one.